number 18. It said, while he spake these things unto them, behold, there came a certain ruler and worshipped him, saying, my daughter is even now dead, but come and lay thy hand upon her, and she shall live. And Jesus arose and followed him, and so did his disciples. Now, we know that this is Jairus, and it's his daughter, and so this story right here that we're going to look at in just a moment, like I said, it's always told in this manner. It's told in 3 of the Gospels, and we're actually going to read all 3 accounts. And like I said, I actually just found a book, Brother Dakota. I just found a book in my mother-in-law's library. It used to be my father-in-law's library, but now it's my mother-in-law's library. And I just found a book with basically the harmony of the Gospels. And so, it'll give you, like, if you read something in Matthew, it'll tell you whether that passage is also mentioned in Mark and Luke and John. And so anyway, I've been using it, and it's been a blessing. I used to do it a different way, but anyway, you can still do it the hard way. But that book makes it a little bit easier for me. But anyway, like these things are always together, and this is a great story of faith right here for Jairus, and also for the woman that we're going to look at. But I also see the gospel in this passage right here. And so in verse number 20 it says, and behold, a woman which was diseased with an issue of blood 12 years, and came behind him and touched the hem of his garment. For she said within herself, if I may but touch his garment, I shall be whole. But Jesus turned him about, and when he saw her, he said, daughter, be of good comfort, thy faith hath made thee whole. And the woman was made whole from that hour. And so I want to just say right here again, like I said, to me, when you're reading through the Gospels, it's actually it would do you a lot of good. It would do you good if and a lot of times if you have a cross-reference Bible. I've got a Cambridge Bible, and a lot of times it'll show you some cross references in the middle. If you have like on your phone, if you have online Bible, you can look up and see like similar passages with that. Or like I said, you can if you have a concordance, you can use a concordance to look things up. Or like I said, I've got that book on the harmonies. And so, but when you're reading the Gospels, and we did this when we were going through the book of John, I have found it very helpful. So we're going to turn to the book of Mark now. The book of Mark. And so because every writer, again, he penned down what the Holy Ghost wanted him to pen down, but every writer kind of fills in, they fill in more details, or you can take all of them and see a whole lot more of the story than what you did if you just read one. And so you'll see that here in Mark chapter number 5, and we'll start in verse number 24. And we're going to skip the part about Jairus and his daughter right here. We're just going to start. And Jesus went with him, and much people followed him and thronged him. And a certain woman which had an issue of blood 12 years, and so this part right here was left out of Matthew's gospel, and had suffered many things of many physicians, and had spent all that she had, and was nothing bettered, but rather grew worse. When she had heard of Jesus, came in the press behind and touched his garment. For she said, if I may touch but his clothes, I shall be whole. And straightway the fountain of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of that plague. And Jesus, immediately knowing in himself that virtue had gone out of him, turned him about in the press and said, who touched my clothes? And his disciples said unto him, thou seest the multitude thronging thee, and sayest thou, who touched me? And he looked round about to see her that had done this thing. But the woman, fearing and trembling, knowing what was done in her, came and fell down before him, and told him all the truth. And he said unto her, daughter, thy faith hath made thee whole. Go in peace, and be whole in thy plague. And then the last passage, and we're just going to read it, but we're going to come back to Mark, so you can hold your place in Mark. The last passage right there is Luke chapter number 8. Luke chapter number 8, in verse number 43, it says, and a woman having an issue of blood 12 years, which had spent all her living upon physicians, neither could be healed of any, came behind him and touched the border of his garment, and immediately her issue of blood stanched. And Jesus said, "Who touched me?" When all denied, Peter and they that were with him said, "Master, the multitude throng thee and press thee, and sayest thou, Who touched me?" And Jesus said, "Somebody hath touched me, for I perceive that virtue is gone out of me." And when the woman saw that she was not hid, she came trembling, and falling down before him, she declared unto him before all the people for what cause she had touched him, and how she was healed immediately. And he said unto her, "Daughter, be of good comfort, thy faith hath made thee whole, go in peace." So again, like I said, that is, every one of those is the exact same story. But because we read all three accounts in the gospel, each one filled in a little bit more detail. Mark probably gave us the most amount of detail, but Luke filled in some things as well. And so that's why, especially when you're reading in the gospels, when you're reading in those gospels, a lot of times there is a parallel passage to what you're reading. And so go look at that parallel passage and go look. Sometimes it doesn't happen a lot, but sometimes all four gospels give the account of something. And go read all four accounts. And when you read it, just understand that these are people giving account. Just like if something happened at church, if I said I could make it this easy. Hey, what did Dakota preach on in Copper Creek? Whenever he preached at Copper Creek a couple weeks ago, I'm sure some people say, "Well, he preached on this," and another person said, "Well, I heard this," another person say this, and all three of them could be correct. It's just, this is what I heard when I was listening. If y'all know me, y'all know that I'm prone to check out, and sometimes I just zone out, and I may zone out. I may be zoned out while you're zoned in, and so I'm listening, but I'm not listening. And I'm hearing, but I'm not hearing. And so he may preach on something and be like, "I never even heard him say that." And sometimes if you get the tape or something, you're like, "Well, go back and listen to the tape." So you go back and listen to the tape or the CD or the MP3 or whatever, whatever we do nowadays. But you go back and listen, you're like, "Oh, well, he did say that right there, didn't he?" But I just zoned out. I just zoned out in that little section right there. But then I may be zoned in on something else and be like, "Well, I heard him say this. It was pretty good." And someone else will be like, I didn't think I heard him say that." And so that's why when you take these gospels, take them as a whole, take all four accounts, or if there's only three accounts, take the three accounts. If there's only two accounts, take the two accounts, and let it fill in the details. Let it fill in the details, and so that you understand. But like I said, in Mark chapter number 5, I think it gives the best account here. And so what we understand here is that Jairus had come to Jesus and said, "Hey, my daughter is dead." And in one of the passages, they actually come to Jesus and Jairus while Jesus is on the way to Jairus' house and said, "Hey, your daughter's dead. Why trouble you the master?" But anyway, so here's Jesus, and he's on his way, and it's hard not to think about what was going on inside Jairus' heart as this woman, as Jesus stops and deals with this woman, because again, I do understand that the most important matter to me is not the most important matter to you. And so the most important matter is always the matter that's on your heart, not the one that's on my heart. And so here's Jairus, and he's petitioned Jesus, and he comes to Jesus and says, "Hey, my daughter, she's sick, she's dead, and I need you to come touch her." And so Jesus and the crowd, it says the crowd thronged him, and so Jesus and this crowd are making their way to Jairus' house, and this woman takes this opportunity to touch Jesus. And so, but Jesus stops everything. And you can imagine in Jairus' heart, every minute, every second that ticks by, it's just one more second where it's a test of his faith. It's a trial of his faith. It's pushing his faith further to be like, "Hey, I still believe," even though it's been just like when Lazarus was dead. She's like, it's been 4 days. By now he stinketh. And Jesus was trying to get Mary and Martha both to believe, and not just believe in the resurrection, but believe that even though it had been 4 days, that Jesus still had the power to raise Lazarus from the dead after 4 days. And so here's this test of faith, and again, like I said, it just happened this way. But I think it was a good thing that it happened this way, because it tested Jairus' faith. That even in this, he still had to say, "Look, I don't understand. I don't understand what's going on sometimes. I don't understand why God doesn't answer my prayer when I pray." You know, I mean, sometimes you're like, "God, I need you, and I need you right now. I need your help right now," and you don't get your help right now. And sometimes God is just testing you. He's just trying you. He could help you right then. Jesus could have just said from when Jairus asked, he said, she's not dead, and you know what, the petition that you asked, you're going to have, and so go home, she'll be fine. He could have said that, and did say that on another count, but he didn't say it here. And so sometimes we get ourselves discouraged because we ask one time and he didn't answer, and oh well. Or we ask and it was urgent to us, but God said, "You know what? I'm going to teach them patience. I'm going to teach them patience. I'm going to teach them that I am still in control, and I'm in control of the situation, and that I can still handle it, even though it doesn't get answered on their time. I'll answer it on my time." And so here is Jairus and Jesus and this crowd, and they're walking through, and here is this woman. And so in verse 24, it says, "And a certain woman," or 25, excuse me, "which had an issue of blood 12 years. Now, we believe that this woman was Jewish, and because she was Jewish, this issue of blood was costing her something, Brother Dakota. This issue of blood was costing her something, because in the book of Leviticus, chapter number 15, in the book of Leviticus, chapter number 15, verse number 19 says, "If a woman have an issue, and her issue in her flesh be blood, she shall be put apart 7 days, and whosoever toucheth her shall be unclean until the evening. And everything that she lieth upon in her separation shall be unclean. Everything also that she sitteth upon shall be unclean. And whosoever toucheth her bed shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until even. And whosoever toucheth anything that she sat upon shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until even. And if it be on her bed or on anything whereon she sitteth, when he toucheth it shall be unclean until even." And so I'll skip down in verse 25. "And if a woman have an issue of her blood many days out of the time of her separation, or if it run beyond the time of her separation, all the days of the issue of her uncleanness shall be as the days of her separation. She shall be unclean." For 12 long years, she'd been unclean. 12 long years. Again, like I said, we don't look at it this way. It's hard to look back. But this issue of blood was not just costing her because she was sick. It was not just costing her because it was costing her money as she was going to the doctor. This issue of blood meant she was basically separated from her people. She was separated. She was unclean. And you know from the story of the Good Samaritan, like, hey, I'm not getting down there because I'm going to defile myself. And so men couldn't, if she had a husband, he wasn't allowed to get near her, and she none of the people, none of the priests, none of those people would want to touch her because she was unclean, because they didn't want to be unclean. And so for 12 long years she was unclean. 12 long years she said, "I sure would like to go up to the temple, but I can't. I sure would like to do this, but I can't. I sure would like to, but I can't, because I'm unclean." And so for 12 long years, she had this issue of blood. And in the next verse, it said, "And had suffered many things of many physicians." Now, I don't, again, there's a very wide age group in here. I mean, we've got teenagers in here, all the way up to people in their almost hundreds. And so And so we've got a very wide age range. If you're a teenager in here, you're like, I ain't never been sick a day in my life. I ain't never been sick. I don't go to the doctor. I don't do this. I don't do that. I don't take cold medicine. I don't take that. And you got other people that have this little container, and it's got Monday morning and Monday evening, and it's 7 days a week, and they fill up their pills, Brother Jerry, for Monday morning, Monday evening, Tuesday morning, Tuesday evening. And Brother Wayne, it used to be a little tiny thing, but it keeps getting bigger because every time they go to the doctor, they say, well, you need 2 more pills. You need 2 more pills. You need pills for your pills, and then pills for the pills the pills that you already got, but you need to do something about that. And so, but I thought about it, and Luke's not in here this morning, but Luke could probably testify to this, because we talked about it upstairs one day. I said, that's why they call them the doctors practitioners now. Because they're just practicing. That's all they're doing. They're just practicing. They don't really know. They're just kind of guessing. Brother Jerry, they're kind of like meteorologists. They can be wrong about 70% of the time, and they never get fired. But I thought about it, like in my job, when I was a technician in my job, if I misdiagnose something, somebody's calling and complaining. Somebody's calling and complaining. Somebody's wanting their money back. They're like, look, I ain't paying for that part because that wasn't the part I needed. And either take that part back off and y'all keep it, or you can let me have it, but I ain't paying for it because I'm not keeping it. And Jake understands that because Jake's doing that work now. And Jake is a little nerve-wracking, isn't it? You go out there and you're like, man, it could be this, and it could be that, or it could be this. And I got about 4 things that it could be, and I've tried to narrow it down as much as I could, but I'm going to have to pick one and hope that's the one. And for the most part, we're pretty knowledgeable, and there's enough of a knowledge base that Jake can lean on, and he can call, and he can get it right the first time. But every once in a while, you just misdiagnose something. But doctors, you go and you're like, well, we think you got this. Here's some medicine. So they put you on medicine. And then you take that medicine, you have some kind of terrible reaction to it, and you come back in, you're like, that medicine didn't work. Okay, we'll try this. And then, well, that didn't work. Okay, we'll try this. And they're just trying stuff, Brother Jerry. They're just trying. And sometimes you go and you walk up to the pharmacy, and they're like, here, because it's 2 hands, because you got 2 handfuls worth of prescription they gave you. And the pharmacist looks at it and says, you can't take that with that. What doctor do you have anyway? Like, I don't know. It's a crazy quack, down the street. He's the one that gave me all this medicine. And he's like, well, you can't take this and that. And then you're like, oh, great. Now I'm going to call the doctor again and be like, hey, they said I can't take these 2 medicines together. Or you were supposed to look because I'm already on 4 other medications, and this one interacts with that one. And like I said, it's just this terrible cycle. And all the young people in here are like, this is the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life. And all these old people are like, I live that every day. I live that almost every day of my life. And so, but you understand, but you think about this. Actually, I was listening to a sermon last night. And the guy he said his throat was messed up in his sinuses, and he said he's got some physicians in his church. So he said he called one, and he said, take this. He said, I called another one. They said, take this. I called another one. They said, take this. He said, in every church has the snake oil salesman in it. Every church has the snake oil salesman, and the snake oil salesman's like, here, I got this peppermint oil, and I want you to put this peppermint oil between your toes. He's like, it's not my toes, it's my nose that's the problem. But, and I chuckle at that because my mother-in-law's daughter, not the one I married to, and not the one that comes here, but anyway, my mother-in-law's daughter has discovered this stuff. And now she's like, everyone she talks to says, hey, do you know about this stuff? And I'm not going to mention the name because I'm not into free advertising. But if they want to support me, they're welcome to call me and support me. And I might mention them more. But anyway, so like she discovered this stuff, and she said something to someone. And she's like, hey, like that stuff's been around for 50 years. That stuff's been around for 50 years. And when I heard the name, I'm like, oh, wait a second. When I was at the church in Maryland, Mr. and Mrs. Harmon, they both passed away now, but they were always like, hey, I got this stuff for you. Hey, I got this stuff for you. And I remember one time we were on vacation in Pigeon Forge, and we went up to Newport to church, and the preacher came and he pulled out something from his pocket because we were talking about some kind of sickness or whatever, and he handed me something. I'm like, what's that? He's like, best I can do. And it was like colloidal silver or whatever. And I was like, okay. And so you also have the snake oil salesman. But you think about this. It said that she had suffered many things. Here's a woman that was so desperate. She was so desperate that she was willing to try anything. And doctors, again, Bub went to the chiropractor the other day, and I told Bub, I said, well, here's how it goes when you go to the chiropractor. You're going to go in, they're going to take x-rays, and they're going to be like, well, you're pretty bad. Let me see here. You're 21 years old, and so basically, for every year you're alive, you need to do a month of chiropractic care. And so we're going to start you out about 4 days a week, and then after about a year of 4 days a week, we're going to take you down to 3 days a week, and then we're going to eventually, in about 10 years, we'll get you down to where you just need 1 day a week. I'm like, that's just how chiropractors go. And if y'all been to the chiropractor, they actually do some good work. They actually do some good work. But sometimes it's just like, I just need you to go in, click, click, clack, clack, twist, pull, tug, pop, pop, and okay, have a nice day. We'll see you next time you messed up. But that's not how they want to do it. So sure enough, Bub went in there, and he said, they're like, oh, got to see you 3 days a week. He's like, you don't know who my boss is. Like, my boss is not going to give me 3 days a week. He's not going to give me 3 days a week. And if he is, it's because he fired me. And he's like, well, fine, if you want to go to the chiropractor's office, just stay at the chiropractor's office. But we got to have work. We got to get work done. And so it's like they don't understand that. But here's this woman, and you imagine that it says she suffered many things of many physicians. And brother, I can't think of his name right now. He talked about Brother Frazier, Joe. He talked about. He said his wife. I guess he went up there to Ray County, and he said that was the motto of the Ray County Hospital, was that they suffered many things of many physicians, and you were nothing better, but rather grew worse. He said that was the motto of the Ray County Hospital up there. But anyway, but here she is, and you think about it. Again, it says she suffered. So I don't know what all they told her to do, Matthew, but she did it. I don't know what all they told her to do, but she tried it. Again, I mean, sometimes it's, and I'm trying not to be funny, but sometimes you're people like, hey, if you'll take pure lemon, and you take, fresh plucked chicken feathers, and you take bones from this, and you mix it all up and boil it and drink that for a week, it'll cure your problem. And you're like, oh, well, if it'll cure my problem, I'll try it. Bub still will not eat onions to this day, because when he was little, his mom read that onions were good, so she boiled this super strong onion thing and made him drink pure onion juice, and he still hates onions to this day because his mom, she wasn't a full snake oil salesperson, but she was willing to try the remedy. And so, but you understand, like this woman suffered, and she suffered willingly. She said, if I could just get help, I'd do anything. If I could just get some help, I will do anything. But she didn't just suffer with just these little home cures. It said that she had suffered many things of many physicians. And you imagine, she went to one doctor and she tried what he had to say for a little while, and that didn't look good. And so sometimes it's a referral. Sometimes he's like, look, ma'am, you're so bad. Your case is so bad. I'm gonna send you over to my buddy. And you could see this woman. At least I can picture. Like she starts up here. She goes to the doctor, and then her hope starts dwindling. And she realizes, she comes in. He's like, there's nothing else I can do for you. But I've got somebody. So her hope comes back up. And he sends her over there, and then he tries to fix her, and he can't fix her. many things of many physicians. Hope comes up, then it's destroyed. Hope comes back up, then it's destroyed. And all she wanted to do was feel better. All she wanted to do was be better. That's all she wanted. And it says that she had spent all that she had. Now, it's one thing to feel bad. And again, you're like, well, hey, I got insurance, I got this, I got that. It's easy. They didn't have insurance back then. When she ran out of money, she realized, like, once I'm out of money, ain't nobody gonna treat me. I'm just gonna be exactly how I am. There's no hope for me. There's no help for me. No one can help me. And I don't have any money now. So even if they could help me, I don't have any money. No one's giving a refund. Tell me a doctor that's ever offered you a refund. Jake, we had to write off the other day. Someone was changing some bearings, and I hated for them. They were changing some bearings in a motor, and when we do that, we leave the motor in and we slide the rotor out, put the bearings on, slide the rotor back in, and they weren't paying attention when they slid the rotor back in. And when they did, they tore the windings up on the motor. $13,000 mistake, just like that. And Greg said he had 3 of them last week that he had to write concessions on. $13,000. 2 of them were $13,000 a pop. I guess the person I work for has got a lot of money, but he doesn't appreciate writing them checks. And so sometimes we have to give a refund because, like, sorry, we messed up. Here's your refund. Any of y'all that's been to a doctor that the doctor tried, did he ever say, hey, look, I really hate I prescribed them super high dollar prescriptions for you, and they didn't do anything? Did he say, hey, I'll buy them back? Never happened. Doesn't happen. Did he ever say, hey, I've made you pay for all these visits coming in here. I made you go get an MRI, and I made you go do this, and I made you go do that. Again, a bunch of y'all in here are probably self-pay, and it really hurts your feelings if you're self-pay. Like I at least have insurance, so it's the insurance company's problem. I just gotta meet the deductible or whatever. But some of you guys that are self-pay, like that really hurt my feelings. I'm $10,000, $12,000 in, and I'm not any better. And they ain't offering no refund. It doesn't appear like any doctor ever said, I'm real sorry, I tried all these things on you, and it didn't work, and I'm real sorry that I took your money every time you come in. I took your $50 copay, or your $100 copay, or whatever. I'm real sorry about that. She never got any of that. And so she spent all that she had, and was nothing better, but rather grew worse. And here's where I see the gospel in this. Most people, when they get saved because they had to get to the bottom. They had to get to the bottom. They just had to get to the bottom. I've tried everything else. I've been through all the 12-step programs. I've been through this. I went to the psychiatrist or the psychologist, and Jake's in here, so I'm going to use him. You know, sometimes we have air compressors, and they're tri-voltage. They're 208, they're 230 volt, or they're 460 volt, but they're only running on one of those voltages. And so, depending on where you're at, that's how it's wired up. But sometimes the place will be like, hey, we're going to move it over here, and when they move it over here, Brother Jerry, we have to convert the voltage. Let's say it was running on 208. Now we have to convert it so it'll run on 460 because it has to be changed. And sometimes psychiatrists and psychologists that way, they're like, hey, I'm going to talk to you, and I'm going to dig deep down in your brain, and I'm going to talk to you, and I'm going to try and unwire what was wired, and I'm going to try and rewire you so that what you were is not what you are anymore. And most of the time that doesn't work. And all you do is get more frustrated. You're like, I've turned over every new leaf. I've tried. I've done the 12-step program. I've read books. I've talked to people. I've had all this stuff. And I am just going to have to live in this condition that I am in. I'm just going to have to live in this condition. There's no help for me. until, verse number 27. It says, when she had heard of Jesus. So there are so many conversations I want to have when I get to heaven. There are so many conversations I want to have. And I know I heard someone preach and say, when I get to heaven, I'm going to ask these things. And they kind of scoffed at that. But I'm sorry, when I get to heaven, I'm planning on asking some questions, Brother Dakota. I'm planning on asking some questions. And I want to ask this woman, tell me what you heard. Tell me what you heard. Tell me, did you just hear about the water being turned to wine? Did you hear about a blind man that couldn't see? Did you hear about a lame man that couldn't walk? Did you hear about the time that they pulled the roof off the house and they set the man through the roof, lying on his bed through the roof? Tell me what you heard. Because I'll tell you what she heard. She heard the greatest story she'd ever heard. She'd heard the greatest story, Matthew, that was ever told. There's a man. It's not going to cost me anything. I don't have to pay. I don't have to be somebody. He's not gonna ask me for anything. He's not going to look at my life and say, you're not clean enough. He's not going to look and say, ma'am, I'm sorry, but you're unclean. I can't touch you. She heard, Jerry, that he loved publicans and sinners. And I don't know how much of a sinner this woman was, but I know she was unclean. And in the eyes of the Jews in that day, she was a sinner. And she heard about Jesus. She heard about Jesus. Someone said, hey, there's this man named Jesus. And he's healing these people. Like, they just come and ask him, and he heals them. And they just sometimes they can't even do it. They just bring them to, and sometimes he comes to them. But a lot of times it's people come to him. And here's this very shy and this timid woman said, oh, if I ever get a chance, I'm going to see if Jesus can help me. And says, when she heard of Jesus, came in the press behind and touched his garment. Now, again, she kind of made it up on her own. I don't know anybody, Brother Jerry, that ever had just touched the hem of his garment and was made whole. But somehow, and Jesus marveled at some of these people's faith, because he marveled because he said sometimes, he said, here's a woman that had so much faith that said, I don't even have to tell him what the problem is. He already knows. I don't even have to ask him to fix it. He can fix it. All I have to do is just get so close to him that if I can just touch the hem of his garment, I can be whole. I don't have to do any of that. And like I said, that doesn't look to me like how it's supposed to go, Brother Jerry. But she said, if I can just touch. And I thought about this, and I want to say it before I forget to say it. There were a lot of people in that crowd that day. Y'all heard Peter and the other disciples said, I mean, look at this crowd. And you ask who touched you? There were a lot of people in that crowd. And I imagine there were a lot of people that had issues, maybe not issue of blood, but there were a lot of people that had issues that Jesus could have healed that day. But they didn't bring it to him. They didn't come in faith believing that he was the Son of God. They were there with the crowd. They were there for the show. They were there for the good time. They were there to be able to tell the story. But they never applied it to their own life and said, hey, it's not just her, but it's me that needs help. It's not just Jairus and Jairus' daughter. I need to be made whole. It's not just this woman with an issue of blood. I need to be made whole. In verse number 29 it says, and straightway the fountain of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of the plague. Immediately. Immediately. If you ever get born again, immediately. Again, my testimony is sitting at Faith Baptist Camp on this side right over here, sitting right there. And when I stood up, the burden rolled away. I'd been doing business with God the whole time sitting there in that pew. I'd been doing business with God. I'd been under conviction, and I finally come to the place where I wanted salvation more than anything and was willing to give everything up. I'd already believed. I believed Jesus was the only one that could save me. Again, I had all these other things right, but I had one thing that needed to be dealt with, and I dealt with that one thing, and when I stood up, the burden rolled away. And this woman immediately... And so in verse 30, and Jesus immediately knowing in himself that virtue had gone out of him, turned about in the presence and said, "Who touched my clothes?" And like I said, the disciples, they're kind of like, that's the most ridiculous question we've ever heard in all our life. What are you asking? Who touched your clothes? All kinds of people touched your clothes. He said, no, somebody touched me. Somebody had enough faith. Somebody had enough belief in me. Someone believed in the Son of God and said, if I can just touch him, I can be made whole. Somebody was different. A lot of people are like, oh. But one person said, oh, if I could just, he could. And he looked round about to see her that had done this thing. Now, again, I say this every week, and I'll continue to say this, Lord willing, for the rest of my life. We're not Calvinists around here. It's not who we are. We believe in a whosoever will gospel. Jesus said in John chapter 5, I think I quoted it last week, and I'll quote it again. He said, you will not come to me that you might have life. You will not come. Not that you could not come. Not that you could not come. And we don't confuse the foreknowledge of God with predestination. I believe that God knows who's going to get saved and who's not going to. He's God. Of course he knows. But every man has an opportunity. And I believe that they were more than just this lady could have got help that day. But when Jesus turned around, it said he looked for her. And one of the other passages, she kind of hid herself, and they asked, and everyone kind of denied, we didn't touch you, we didn't touch you. A bunch of people had touched her. The disciples, like, a bunch of them have touched you. But she's like, oh. And so it says, and he looked round about to see her that had done this thing. She had to come to him. You say, I want to be saved. Come to Jesus. I want him to come to me. He already came to the cross. He already rose from the dead. How much more do you want him to do? Do you want him to appear at night in your bedroom? And that's probably not going to happen. Again, he already came to the cross. He already died for your sins. He already paid for your sins. He already rose from the grave. He sent the Holy Ghost to put you under conviction and draw you and woo you and try and get you to come. It's on you now. But the woman, fearing and trembling, she'd heard about Jesus, but again, like I said, if you get saved, I got saved when I was 16, so I was 34 years ago. There's a lot of things, Brother Dakota, that I didn't know about Jesus that I know about him now. She didn't know everything about Jesus. All she knew is that she believed that he was the Son of God and that he had power, and if she could just get her petition to him with just touching the hem of his garment, he could heal her. But she comes fearing and trembling, knowing what was done in her, and came and fell down before him and told him all the truth. So again, keep the picture. Here is Jairus and Jesus and the crowd and the disciples. And Jesus stops everything and says, who touched me? And no one wanted to answer because they thought they were in trouble. And this woman, she didn't, like I said, she believed in Jesus, but she didn't know him well enough to know how much he loved her. She didn't know him well enough yet, Matthew. That's why she came fearing and trembling. But when she got down on her knees right there, it says, and fell down before him and told him all the truth. And he said unto her, she had no idea what he was going to say. She had no idea what he was going to say. He said, daughter. Oh, just like when Jesus resurrected from the grave, and Mary thought he was the gardener, and he said her name Mary. She said, oh, it's the master. Rabboni, it's the master. And so he said, daughter, thy faith hath made thee whole. Go in peace and behold thy plague. So here is this woman, suffered 12 years of this sickness, and suffered many things of many physicians, and she was flat broke, busted. And all she did was heard the gospel. Heard there's a man named Jesus, and he's healing people, and he's making a difference in people's lives. And she said, if I can just get to him, he can do something for me. And immediately, even though she never spoke to him, he healed her. And yet he spoke, and he said, hey, again, a lot of times people are shy, people are timid, and Jesus called that shyness out. He called that timidness out. That woman was going to go home and never say anything, but Jesus said, no, come back over here. Come on over here. Come over here. And she fell down and fearing and trembling, but again, he just wanted he wanted them to see, hey, this is what real faith looks like. This is what real faith looks like. Here's a woman that didn't have anything. I didn't ask her for anything, and she came to me with a need, and I met that need. And she's walking away whole for one reason, because she believed that I am who I said I am. Thank you.